Welcome to HFY Matrix, a channel for human-centered sci-fi stories. Subscribe to continue with us. The floor of the obsidian throne room was made of jagged volcanic rock that looked specifically designed to ruin orthopedic footwear. Veins of glowing red lava pulsed beneath the semi-transparent stone, casting a hellish uplight that was honestly very unflattering for anyone over the age of 30. Maxine checked her watch. She sighed. She tapped the screen of her tablet with a manicured nail that had chipped 3 days ago, and she still hadn't fixed it because, frankly, who had the time? "I am Krog," the massive figure on the throne bellowed. His voice sounded like two tectonic plates grinding together during a nasty divorce. "I am the breaker of worlds. I am the sorrow of the nebulas. I am the one who knocks." Maxine looked up. She didn't look impressed. She looked like she was waiting for a latte that was 5 minutes late. "Yeah, I got the memo," Maxine said, her voice flat and echoing weirdly in the cavernous room. "You're Krog, big guy, rocky complexion, steam issues. Look, are we doing this surrender thing or not? Because my parking meter expires in 40 minutes and I am not paying the intergalactic fine. Have you seen the rates in this sector? It's highway robbery." Krog stood up. He was 9 feet of living, breathing obsidian. His body was a fortress of black stone plates that shifted and ground against each other when he moved. He had 2 thick tree trunk legs and 2 massive rocky arms that looked like they could punch a hole through a suspension bridge. His face was flat and angular like a shovel made of hate, with 4 glowing yellow eyes stacked in 2 pairs. Steam hissed violently from the vents on his massive shoulders. It was his signature move. He loved the steam. It made him feel dramatic. "You do not fear me," Krog roared, stepping down from the dais. The ground shook. A small vase on a pedestal wobbled and fell over, shattering. "I have ground civilizations into dust. I have drunk the oceans of Kepler 9. "Gross," Maxine said. "That's unsanitary. And for the record, I don't fear you because I used to work retail during the holidays. You think you're scary? Try telling a suburban mother that the last Tickle Me Elmo is sold out. That is fear, buddy. You're just a geology exhibit with an anger management problem." To the left of the throne, Scribe Nix let out a high-pitched squeak. Nix was a gliptide, which was a polite way of saying he was a 4-foot-tall anxiety attack made of green jello. He had 2 skinny, translucent arms that trembled constantly, and 2 short stump legs that squelched when he walked. His single giant cyclops eye was wide with terror, and the little fin crest on his head was drooping sadly to the left. "Sire," Nix whispered, clutching a data scroll to his wet chest. The human is vibrating with sarcasm. My sensors are overheating. I have never seen levels of passive aggression this high. She is a weapon." "Silence, slime thing," Krog snapped. He turned, his 4 yellow eyes back to Maxine. He loomed over her. He was close enough that Maxine could smell his breath, which smelled like burnt matches and old pennies. "Human, kneel before Krog and beg for the mercy of a swift disintegration." Maxine rolled her eyes so hard it actually hurt a little bit behind her sockets. "Hard pass," Maxine said. She tapped her tablet again. "I have bad knees. Meniscus tear from 09, skiing accident. Actually, it was a tripping over my cat accident, but I tell people it was skiing because it sounds cooler. Point is, I don't kneel. Not for you, not for the Queen of England, and definitely not for a guy who looks like a pile of driveway gravel that came to life." Krog paused. His shoulder vents stopped steaming for a second. His top pair of eyes blinked, then the bottom pair blinked. He looked confused. Usually, by this point, the species was weeping. Usually, there was begging. There was very little talk about meniscus tears. "You refuse?" Krog asked. "I'm declining," Maxine corrected. She held out the tablet. Look, let's cut the theatrics. I was sent here to process the transition. You want Earth? Fine, take it. It's a fixer-upper anyway. Global warming, reality TV, the price of avocados. Honestly, you're doing us a favor, but I need you to sign the liability waiver. Standard procedure. Krog stared at the tablet. He had never been handed a liability waiver. Usually, he just burned things until people stopped complaining. A treaty? Krog rumbled. A treaty of absolute submission? Sure, Maxine said, waving a hand dismissively. Let's call it that. It sounds way cooler than transfer of property and assumption of debt. Just sign at the bottom. Press your thumb, or whatever that rocky nub is, on the screen. Krog leaned in. He snatched the tablet from her hand. His rocky fingers were thick and clumsy. He glared at the screen. The text was small, dense. Section 1, paragraph 4, Krog read, his voice booming. The conquering party, hereinafter referred to as Big Rock Daddy. I improvised the names, Maxine interrupted. Legal said it was fine. Agrees to accept full responsibility for all biological, ecological, and metaphysical debts incurred by the conquered planet, Krog finished. He looked up. Debts? I do not pay debts. I extract tribute. Same thing, Maxine lied smoothly. She inspected her fingernails. It just means you own everything. The gold, the water, the people, the crippling national deficit, the student loans. It's all yours, champ. Congratulations. You won the lottery. Nix waddled forward, leaving a trail of green slime on the pristine obsidian floor. His single eye was darting back and forth between Krog and Maxine. Sire, Nix hissed, his voice wet and bubbly, I do not like this. The human female. She is too calm. Her heart rate is resting. She is practically asleep. This is a trap. We should disintegrate her and leave. Earth smells like plastic and disappointment anyway. Quiet, Nix, Krog bellowed. Steam shot out of his shoulders again, looking like two angry tea kettles. You are a coward. This human is not calm. She is paralyzed by my majesty. She is broken by my aura of terror. She is simply coping with humor. Maxine snorted. It was a loud, unladylike sound. Oh, totally, Maxine said. I am shaking in my sensible flats. Look, are you going to sign it or not? Because if you don't, I have to go back to the UN and tell them you got cold feet. And honestly, that's embarrassing for you. King Krog, the breaker of worlds, scared of a PDF. That's going to look bad on the galactic resume. Krog's obsidian skin seemed to darken. The lava veins in the floor pulsed brighter, responding to his anger. He hated being called scared. He hated PDFs, even though he didn't know what they were. I fear nothing, Krog roared. He raised a massive fist and slammed it into his own chest, making a sound like a boulder hitting a sheet of metal. I will sign your treaty. I will claim your mudball of a planet, and then I will enslave your species to build statues of me. Big statues with very defined calves. Weird flex, but okay, Maxine muttered. Krog jammed his thick, rocky finger onto the tablet screen. He pressed down. The screen flickered. He swiped aggressively, carving a jagged line that looked vaguely like a signature if you squinted and had a concussion. It is done, Krog shouted. He threw the tablet back at Maxine. She caught it with one hand. She didn't flinch. She looked down at the screen. She checked the signature. She checked the timestamp. And then Maxine smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It wasn't the smile you give a puppy or a baby. It was the smile a shark gives a surfer when they realize the water is warm. It was the smile of a woman who knows exactly where the bodies are buried because she dug the holes herself. Perfect, Maxine whispered. The word hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Krog took a step back. He didn't mean to. It was an instinct. His 4 eyes widened. The steam from his shoulders sputtered and died out. Why? Krog started, his voice losing a bit of its thunder. "Why are you making that face? Stop making that face. It is unsettling." "Oh, honey," Maxine said, and her voice was dripping with so much sugar it was practically toxic. "You have no idea what you just did. You didn't just sign a treaty, you just co-signed on humanity. Do you know what humanity is, Krog?" Nyx was hiding behind the throne now. Only his fin crest was visible, shivering. "We are weak," Krog guessed. "Squishy, filled with red fluid?" "We are a nightmare," Maxine said, stepping forward. For a short human in a gray suit, she suddenly felt 10 feet tall. "We are the species that invented nuclear weapons because we didn't like how another country drank their tea. We are the species that drinks poison for fun on Friday nights. We strapped ourselves to rockets and shot ourselves into the void just to see if we could survive. And you just agreed to manage us." Maxine tapped the tablet. "Section 8, Clause C," she recited from memory. "The conquering entity assumes full administrative duty for all human complaints, lawsuits, internet discourse, and HOA disputes." Krog blinked. "HOA?" "Homeowners associations," Maxine said, and her grin widened. "You are the manager now, Krog. You're the manager of Earth, and let me tell you, we would like to speak to the manager." Krog looked at Nyx. Nyx looked at Krog. "Sire," Nyx whimpered from behind the chair, "I think we have made a terrible mistake." "Nonsense!" Krog yelled, though his voice cracked a little. "I am a warlord. I do not handle disputes. I conquer. I destroy." "Not according to this," Maxine said, waving the tablet. "According to this, you're responsible for the pothole on Main Street. And let me tell you, Linda from accounting has been emailing about it for 6 months and she is not happy. You think I'm annoying? Wait until you meet Linda. Linda will make you wish you stayed in the nebula." Krog growled, a low, rumbling sound deep in his chest. He didn't like this. The dynamic had shifted. He was supposed to be the predator. She was supposed to be the prey, but she was looking at him like he was a broken photocopier that she was about to kick. "Give me the tablet," Krog demanded. "I revoke my signature. I will burn the document." "Can't," Maxine said, cheerful as a grim reaper. "Uploaded to the cloud instantly. Galactic server. Immutable blockchain ledger. It's done. You're the king of Earth now. Congratulations, Your Majesty. First order of business, global warming. Fix it. It's getting sweaty down there." Krog roared. Pure, frustrated rage. He grabbed his massive, jagged staff from beside the throne. He swung it. The heavy stone weapon smashed into a pillar, sending sparks and rock shards flying. "I will kill." "You!" Krog screamed. "If I kill the messenger, the contract is void. That is space law." "Actually, that's just murder," Maxine pointed out. "And it voids the warranty on your new planet. But hey, you do you." Krog advanced. His heavy footsteps shook the floor. Thud, thud, thud. Steam blasted from his shoulders again, obscuring his face in a cloud of white vapor. Glowing yellow eyes burned through the mist. "Run, little human," Krog hissed. "Run before I turn you into a paste and use you to grout my bathroom tiles." Maxine sighed. She adjusted her blazer. "I really hate cardio," she muttered, "but since I'm technically on the clock—" She turned and ran. She didn't sprint like an action hero. She ran like a person trying to catch a bus in bad shoes. She scrambled toward the heavy metal doors of the throne room. "Get her!" Krog commanded. "Nyx, stop her! Trip her! Use your slime!" Nyx peeked out from behind the throne. "Me? Sire, she has a pointy pen. She is dangerous." "Go!" Krog threw a piece of rubble at Nyx. Nyx squealed and scrambled forward on his 2 stump legs. He moved surprisingly fast, sliding across the polished floor on a layer of his own secreted mucus. Maxine reached the door. There was a guard standing there, a massive, silent hulk of rock, just like Krog, but with fewer brain cells. "Door!" Maxine yelled, waving her clipboard. "Inspection!" Emergency hygiene audit. Move or I report you for code violations. The guard, trained to fear nothing but paperwork, instinctively hit the release button. The massive blast doors hissed open. Maxine bolted into the hallway. "I'm coming for you!" Krog's voice boomed from behind her. "I will shred your contract. I will delete your cloud." Maxine entered the echo corridor. It was a long, sterile metallic hallway with flickering overhead lights that buzzed like angry hornets. It stretched on for what looked like a mile. "Great!" Maxine panted, her footsteps clapping loudly on the metal. Grating. Just great. Infinite hallway. Who designs these places? Supervillain architects are us? Behind her, the sound of tearing metal echoed. Krog had apparently decided the door wasn't opening fast enough and had walked through it. "Come back here," Krog roared. His voice bounced off the metal walls, amplifying it until it sounded like the station itself was screaming. "I have questions about the Homeowners Association. What is a Karen? Why does she want to call the police on my invasion fleet?" Maxine kept running. She clutched the tablet to her chest. "Read the handbook, Krog," she shouted back over her shoulder. "It's all in the fine print." She heard a wet squelch sound behind her, followed by a loud thud and a high-pitched squeal. "Sire, I am stuck," Nyx cried out. "My suction cups have adhered to the floor grating. Physics has betrayed me." "Unstick yourself, you incompetent gelatin mold," Krog yelled. Maxine grinned as she ran. The chase was on. But honestly, compared to the morning commute on the subway, this was a walk in the park. At least here, the giant rock monster admitted he wanted to kill her. On the subway, everyone just stared at their phones and passively wished for death. She saw a junction ahead. Left went to the hangar. Right went to the viewing deck. The hangar meant escape. The viewing deck meant a view. Maxine paused for a microsecond. Escaping was good. Escaping was safe. But if she left now, Krog would just come to Earth and blow it up anyway out of spite. She had to break him. She had to make him quit. She turned right, toward the viewing deck. "Hey, Krog!" she yelled, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Bet you can't catch me before I file a workers' comp claim for emotional distress." A roar of pure fury answered her. The walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. "You are the worst species," Krog screamed, charging down the hall like a runaway freight train made of granite. "Tell me something I don't know," Maxine muttered, and she sprinted toward the end of the world. The echo corridor was designed for dramatic entrances, not athletic pursuits. It was a long, sterile tube of brushed steel and flickering lights that seemed to stretch into infinity, mostly because the architect had clearly been paid by the square foot. Maxine's sensible flat slapped against the metal grating in a rhythm that was entirely too jaunty for a death chase. Slap, slap, slap behind her. The auditory experience was significantly more violent. Boom, crash, hiss. King Krog was not built for cardio. He was built for sitting on a throne and looking menacing in still images. Every time his massive obsidian foot hit the floor, the grating buckled. He was tearing up his own flagship just to catch a woman who was currently mentally drafting a complaint about the humidity levels. "Stop!" Krog roared, his voice bouncing off the walls and creating a feedback loop of pure rage. "Stop running, you bureaucratic insect. I do not have the lung capacity for this." "I can hear you wheezing," Maxine shouted back, not even looking over her shoulder. "You sound like a pug with asthma. Maybe if you laid off the devouring worlds and ate a salad once in a while, you wouldn't be winded by a light jog." "I am not winded," Krog screamed. "I am charging my rage meter." A beam of searing red energy sizzled past Maxine's ear, singing a few stray hairs. She didn't scream, she just groaned. "Oh, great," she muttered, checking the singed ends. "That's coming out of your security deposit. Do you know how much a good blowout costs in the city? More than your GDP. She skidded around a corner, her shoulders slamming into the wall. The corridor opened up slightly here, lined with decorative pipes that served no purpose other than to look sci-fi. Behind her, Scribe Nyx came sliding around the bend. The Gliptide had abandoned walking entirely. He was now a projectile of green slime, surfing on his own mucus, secretions like a terrified bobsledder. "Make way!" Nyx shrieked, his single giant eye spinning dizzily. "I have no brakes! Friction is a myth!" Nyx shot past Maxine, flailing his two skinny arms, and collided with a stack of supply crates. Splat! He stuck to the crates like a wet decal, his translucent green skin turning a pale, milky white. His species tell for, "I think I just soiled myself." Maxine paused for a microsecond. "Solid form, Nyx. Maybe tuck the knees next time." "The king is coming," Nyx wheezed, peeling himself off a crate with a sound like Velcro tearing. "He is very steamy." As if on cue, Krog rounded the corner. He didn't turn. He just smashed through the inner bulkhead, taking a shortcut through a wall. Debris rained down on his rocky shoulders. Steam was venting from his traps so violently, he looked like a locomotive that was running late. "Found you," Krog rumbled. He raised his jagged staff, the tip glowing with lethal energy. Maxine held up a hand. "Pause. Time out." Krog froze. He didn't want to, but the sheer audacity of the command short-circuited his warlord brain. Time out. There is no time out in conquest. "There is when Union rules apply," Maxine said, leaning against the wall and pretending to check her pulse. "I'm entitled to a 15-minute break every 4 hours of being chased by a geological formation. Look it up. It's in the treaty you just signed." Krog lowered the staff an inch. His 4 yellow eyes narrowed, the top pair squinting while the bottom pair widened in confusion. "I did not read the breakroom policy." "Section 12, paragraph D," Maxine lied effortlessly. "If you kill me during a mandated rest period, the fines are astronomical. We're talking sell your flagship for scrap money." Krog looked at Nyx. Nyx was busy trying to unstick his left foot from a metal crate. "Is this true, Scribe?" Krog demanded. Nyx stopped struggling. He looked at Maxine, then at the smoking hole Krog had made in the wall. He realized that if Krog killed Maxine, the scary lady was gone. But if Krog killed Maxine and then Earth sued them for astronomical fines, Krog would kill Nyx for letting it happen. "The human legal code is complex, sire," Nyx improvised, his voice trembling. "They litigate everything. I once read a transmission about a human suing a coffee shop because the coffee was hot. Hot coffee, sire. They are litigious monsters." Krog grunted, the steam venting from his shoulders slowing to a simmer. "Fine. You have 1 minute. Catch your breath. Then I disintegrate you." "Generous," Maxine said dryly. She pushed off the wall and started walking again. Not running, just walking briskly toward the large blast doors at the end of the hall. "By the way, your ship's feng shui is terrible. All these sharp angles, bad energy. No wonder you're so angry all the time." "It is an aesthetic of power," Krog yelled, stomping after her, matching her pace aggressively. "It symbolizes the sharpness of my rule." "It symbolizes overcompensation," Maxine shot back. She reached the blast doors. They were sealed. A keypad glowed red next to them. "Ha!" Krog laughed, a sound like boulders tumbling down a ravine. "Dead end. The viewing deck is locked. You need a level 5 clearance code to enter. I have you now, human." Maxine looked at the keypad. She looked at Krog. She looked at the tablet she was still holding. "Level 5 clearance," she asked. "Is that like admin?" She tapped the screen of her tablet. During the chase, while Krog was busy making holes in walls, Maxine had been busy connecting to the ship's open Wi-Fi network. The password had been password 123. "System override," Maxine said. Door open. The blast doors hissed and slid apart. Krog's jaw, or rather the lower plate of his stony face, dropped. How? That encryption was moderate. Your firewall is a joke, Maxine said, stepping through. I've seen better security. On a library computer. She walked onto the viewing deck, and for a second, even Maxine had to admit it was impressive. The room was a massive circular observation bubble. The floor was transparent, looking down into the void of space. Directly ahead, through the curved glass, hung a planet. It wasn't Earth, it was some unfortunate purple world that Krog was currently in the process of liberating from its atmosphere. Laser batteries from the ship's hull were firing silent green beams into the planet's surface. It was a view of absolute destruction. Maxine walked to the center of the room, standing on the glass floor over the abyss. She turned to face Krog and Nyx as they stumbled in. Krog slammed the butt of his staff onto the floor. End of the line, temp worker. No more corridors, no more laws, just space and death. He stepped forward, his shadow engulfing her. He was 9 feet of nightmare. He raised the staff high. Any last words? Krog asked, savoring the moment. Perhaps a plea for mercy? A lament for your fragile water-filled body? Maxine looked at the staff. Then she looked at her tablet. She tapped the screen 3 times. Beep, beep, boop. Actually, Maxine said, her voice echoing in the silent room, I was just activating your premium subscription. Krog paused. The staff hovered in the air. What? You signed the contract, Maxine said, her tone shifting from bored to helpful customer service agent, which was arguably more terrifying. You are now the owner of Earth. But as I mentioned, Earth is a fixer-upper. To facilitate your management, I've enrolled you in the Galactic Landlord Platinum Package. It's a subscription service, Nyx shrieked. Sire, a subscription, the ancient curse of the recurring payment. Krog looked at Nyx, then back at Maxine. I do not pay for things, I take them. Not with this plan, Maxine said, scrolling through a list on her tablet. Okay, let's review your first month's fees. First, you have the human stupidity tax. That's a surcharge for managing a species that eats laundry detergent pods for internet fame. It's hefty. She tapped the screen. Then there's the pollution cleanup fee. We broke the ozone layer. You bought it, you fix it. That's about 4 trillion galactic credits a month. Krog's eyes widened. Trillion, plus tip, Maxine added. Then we have the Karen protocol. Since you are now the manager, every time a human demands to speak to you, you are legally required to appear in person. There are 7 billion humans. Approximately 40% of them are currently demanding to speak to the manager about the weather. Krog lowered his staff. The steam on his shoulders died out completely. He looked cold. I have to talk to them? Individually, Maxine nodded sympathetically. And they will yell. They will yell about things you have no control over, like the price of bread, or why their football team lost. And you, King Krog, have to listen and nod and apologize. I do not apologize, Krog roared, but his voice cracked. I am Krog. You are customer service representative Krog now, Maxine corrected. Look, it's all here in the cloud. You can't cancel the subscription without a cancellation fee. Nyx waddled forward, his crest completely flat against his head. Sire, we cannot afford this. The treasury is mostly just skulls and stolen art. We do not have liquidity for the stupidity tax. Krog looked at the burning planet outside the window. He looked at his massive hands. He looked at Maxine, who was smiling that terrible shark-like smile again. What is the cancellation fee? Krog asked, his voice very small for a 9-foot warlord. Maxine pretended to do math. She hummed. She tilted her head. Well, she said, to void the contract and cancel the platinum package, You'd have to return the merchandise in its original condition. Return Earth? Krog asked. Unconquered, Maxine clarified. Untouched. And you'd have to leave the solar system immediately to avoid the loitering penalty. Oh, and you have to issue a public apology on all frequencies, standard PR stuff. Krog stared at her. His brain was trying to process the concept of retreating versus the concept of listening to 7 billion people complain about the weather. He looked at Nyx. Scribe, Krog said heavily. Do we have enough fuel to leave this sector? Yes, sire, Nyx said, visibly brightening, his skin turning a happy lime green. We can go to the nebula. We can fight the gas clouds. They do not have lawyers. They do not have homeowners associations. Krog turned back to Maxine. He tried to look regal. He tried to look like he was making a strategic decision and not running away from a woman with a clipboard. Human, Krog rumbled. Your planet is defective. The quality is poor. The inhabitants are annoying. I am returning it. A wise choice, Maxine said, not breaking character. I'll need to process the return. Just say, I, Krog, am afraid of the hidden fees into the tablet. I am not afraid, Krog yelled. Say it to cancel the billing, Krog, Maxine said sternly. Otherwise, I charge you for the denial fee. Krog gritted his teeth. His mandibles clicked together in frustration. He leaned down toward the tiny microphone on the tablet. Krog, he muttered, am concerned regarding the fiscal responsibility of the hidden fees. Close enough, Maxine said. She tapped the screen. Transaction approved. Subscription canceled. You have 30 minutes to vacate the premises before the trespassing drones arrive. And by drones, I mean our mosquitoes. You have soft skin between those rocks, right? Krog shuddered. He didn't know what mosquitoes were, but the way she said it sounded like a biological weapon. We are leaving. Krog turned, his cape swirling dramatically. Nyx, set a course for, anywhere but here, and burn the navigation charts so we never find this cursed rock again. At once, sire, Nyx squealed, scurrying toward the flight controls, leaving a fresh trail of joyous slime. Krog marched toward the exit, but stopped at the door. He turned back to look at Maxine. She was standing alone in the center of the massive room, silhouetted against the burning planet below. You, Krog said, pointing a thick finger at her. You are not a warrior. You are not a mage. What are you? Maxine adjusted her blazer. She capped her pen. I'm an administrative assistant, Krog, she said with a wink. We run the universe. Everyone else just lives in it. Krog snorted, a puff of steam escaping his nose. I will have nightmares of your clipboard. He stormed out. Epilogue. Maxine stood on the viewing deck until she felt the ship's engines thrum to life. The massive vessel turned slowly away from the star maps that pointed toward Earth and angled itself toward deep space. She looked down at her tablet. The screen was blank. It wasn't connected to the cloud. It wasn't connected to anything. It was just a drawing app she used to doodle while Krog was talking. There was no treaty. There was no subscription. There was no Karen protocol. She had literally bullied an intergalactic warlord into retreating using nothing but improv comedy and a bluff about capitalism. The door behind her hissed open. The guard, the silent rock monster from the throne room, poked his head in. He looked confused. The guard grunted. Where King go? Maxine turned. She checked her watch. It was 5:01 p.m. He went to get milk, Maxine said, walking past him. I'm off the clock. If anyone asks, the Earth is closed for renovations. She walked down the echo corridor, her heels clicking a steady rhythm. She was going to expense this entire trip, and she was definitely, absolutely getting a raise, or at least a better office chair.